What's going on, guys? Quinn69 here. How you guys doing? Today I'm going to bring you guys a guide on the Rat of the Lich King monk. This monk here is specifically designed for experienced farming groups. This is greater rifts from 30 to 40 speed runs. And yeah, in my opinion, it's the best spec to play when you're doing experience, as you get the most experience. It's literally experience capped. No one else in the game gets as much experience as this build does. Hence why the people going for the rank 1 Paragon in the world all play monks. Because you can play this particular build that I'm going to show you right here, and it's still extremely fast, if not the fastest monk build for doing Greaterus. There is one thing: you need a barbarian, and he needs to be good. If your barbarian is just not geared enough, or really slow, this build is going to be horrible, and it's not going to be that great. You can replace the barbarian for other things like Condemned Crusaders, or you can use just Demon Hunters instead. But it's never going to be as efficient or have as much synergy as you do with a barbarian, because pretty much what you're doing, and you are the barbarian, are just running around like a little two-man tag team. You just grip stuff together, and the barbarian charges it. And you pretty much double his damage. So you're doing about damage of one barbarian. Like if you were to replace the monk with a barbarian, the runs would go slower, because you're doubling his damage, and then on top of that, you're also creating density. So you're amping his damage, and then you're creating density, and that's how the whole build works. And then when the Rift Guardian spawns, you can also amp the damage of the Rift Guardian. You don't actually do any damage yourself. As you can see, the damage I'm doing is it's irrelevant. It's insignificant. I'm doing like 180k. It's pathetic the amount of damage I'm doing, but I am providing a lot of damage amp. You're gonna see that in the gear here. I'm gonna show you right now. So, the gear you want, guys. The gear you want. The gear you want. Kane set. This set here, boys. This set here. You're gonna be using Kane's boots, Kane's pants, and Kane's gloves. If you look at the 3 set there, grants 50% bonus experience. This is a multiplier in Greater Rifts. It's a crazy. It means you get 50% more experience straight up. That's why we're using Kane set. We also use Born set. Look at the 3 set there, boys. 20% bonus experience. And the great thing is, we were already going to use this in the set anyway, because we need the cooldown reduction. So you're really not losing anything by going Born set. So you're using Born's shoulders, Born's chest, and Born's sword. Okay. On the sword, the damage stats are irrelevant. So what you can do, you can see what I've done to my sword. I've actually rolled damage range off. So I've got cooldown reduction, I've got resource cost reduction, and I've got survivability. That's what I'm using right here. And yeah, it just gives you more experience. Your main hand weapon, the main hand weapon I'm using a Sledge Fist, simply because it has a chance to stun on hit. So every time I Cyclone Strike, it has a chance to stun. Every time I auto attack, it has a chance to stun, which it means the mob stays more still, and it means that the Demon Hunters have a less, they're not going to die as much because things are going to be stunned. You can use things like an Azure Wrath, Selenium, or a Thunder Fury. It doesn't really matter. This weapon, there's one weapon slot which just doesn't really matter. It's just there for utility. You're not doing any damage, so it doesn't really matter. I'm using the Hellfire Ring. This is a crafted ring. If you don't have to craft it, you need to look that up on the internet. This thing gives you 45% bonus experience, and then it's a multiplier. More experience means you get Paragon levels. I'm currently 800 Paragon from using this spec, with a relatively short playtime. So yeah, it's really crazy spec for getting Paragons. I'm using a Lyric Signet here. This one here, 30% bonus experience, more EXP. We're winning the game at this point. Ideally you want cooldown reduction on both your rings. This is not the best example ring to show you guys. My one does have crit and vit instead of cooldown reduction, and resource cost reduction, but whatever, it does the job. We're using strong arm braces here. There's no braces which can give you, extra experience. So we use these ones here. Every time you cyclone, everything takes, up to 30% more damage. That's a damage buff to the party. We're using Lyric's Crown. So that increases the effectiveness of the gem. So that gives you an extra 41% experience if you have 100% crown, and then because you're using a red gem. Your necklace is totally up to you. I'm using a Star of Askaranth. It's an extremely rare, necklace. But what it means is that you're immune to fire damage, so you can't die to Molten. If you can't die to Molten, then you're not gonna, lose your pools of reflection, which is really, really nice. As we're all about that experience life. We're all about that experience. Not dying means we keep our pools of reflection, which means we get more experience. You can alternatively use like any other immunity necklace, like Countess Julius. You can use this thing here. It's pretty good. It means you're immune to arcane, which can kill you. Or you could use a Marius Kaleidoscope, immune to poison, or you could use a Safarian Amulet, immune to lightning. They're all good options as well. We're using a Vigilante Belt as well for the cooldown reduction. And I'm kind of trying to, if you look at my gear, it's all kind of got cooldown reduction on it. I'm kind of trying to prioritize cooldown reduction as it makes the spec, more. You don't need cooldown reduction at all. You can be playing with 0 CDR. But it feels better to play as your Serenity uptime. I mean, your Epiphany uptime is much better, and means you got more spirit to work with. You can dash faster. It means you can keep up with the Barbarian. So yeah, you want to be optimizing CDR and all your gear. Legendary gems I'm using a Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. So this one here just gives me a shield and it gives me life per second. This is purely for survivability. We don't need damage. So yeah, I just use that to stay alive so I don't die. I'm using a gem of efficacious toxin. You don't worry about the damage on it. It's literally just for enemies. Basically any attacks. Every time you Cyclone Strike, every time you auto attack, everything takes 10% more damage. And more damage means the Barbarian does more damage, and we're winning. So far we've already got Strong Arms, more damage. We've got Efficacious Toxin, more damage, and then we're using Goraku Swiftness. You don't need this, but it makes the game a lot nicer. It means you have more attack speed. Means you can Cyclone faster. It means you can get your spirit back faster, and obviously cooldown reduction converts into more Epiphany and uptime, which is great. The final gem I'm using. This is another legendary gem, Gem of Ease. It's pretty insignificant. The amount of experience you actually get is really small. But, using a purple gem for extra life on hit is pretty pointless as well. So you can increase your experience by up to 5% by having one of these in. So, it's a pretty decent gem. More experience, and you don't lose anything by going it. You don't hurt the team by using it. Whereas if you were playing a DPS class and trying to use one of these, you're going to significantly hurt the team. If a Barbarian was trying to use this, or a Demon Hunter was trying to use this, it would be retarded. But because we're not doing any damage, our damage doesn't matter. We can get away with it. We can get away with it. Yes, good. Okay, let's get into the skills. We're using Crippling Wave, Breaking Wave. This is how you get your spirit back. If you look right down the bottom of the skill, enemies hit by Crippling Wave take 10% additional damage from all attacks for 3 seconds. So it's 10% damage to your Barbarian and to your group. It's great. We're using Inner Sanctuary, Forbidden Palace. This, CDR increases the uptime, and it makes all enemies take 30% more damage, and they're also slowed by 80%, which means they're going to stay still, which is quite nice. But you're mainly using it for the damage amp. It helps a lot on the Rift Guardians, and it helps a lot for the Barbarian. We're using Cyclone Strike Implosion. This is just because, we want the biggest possible pull. It's speed runs. You're just going through, pulling stuff in, smashing it in like 2 seconds, and you're moving on. Best rune by far. I wouldn't use anything else. Mantra of Conviction Annihilation. Okay, you can press this, you can activate it, so you can give like a 20% damage amp, and also it gives the entire group, a 30% movement speed boost, and that's up almost all the time because you're constantly killing stuff. You don't have to kill it yourself personally. As long as someone in your group kills something, everyone in the group gets the movement speed who's in range of the mantra. So it's really, really OP for you and the Barbarian. It helps the Demon Hunters out a bit as well. Dashing Strike, Way of the Falling Star. When you dash, you gain 20% more movement speed. Sweet as, more movement speed. I don't know if you've tried to keep it with a Reiko bar before, but this is integral. It helps. You could use a defensive rune if you're struggling to stay alive, but I would say the movement speed is the best. And Epiphany Insight. Because you're going to be gearing your character around survivability. I've got 47 million toughness, and when you get the Barbarian shout, you'll be over 60 million toughness. It's really, really hard to die. So you don't want to use Desert Shroud if you don't have to. Yeah, Epiphany Insight. You can go Desert Shroud if you are, if you think you're going to die and stuff. But yeah, I'd prefer Insight any day of the week. I also use Fleet-Footed for 10% movement speed, to keep it with the Barbarian. Harmony for the extra, All Resist. It's great. Sixth Sense, just so you don't die to, like, laser beams and stuff. You can just pretty much because you're stacking so much defense and stuff in this build, because you don't have to worry about damage, it's really, really hard to die, which is amazing. It means you can pretty much AFK while doing these speed runs. I mean, you've got to obviously keep up with the Barbarian and pull stuff, but it means you can be like watching a movie and smashing out those Paragons. And then Beacon Eater, 20% cooldown reduction, really, really juicy. Kind of helps you, you know, helps you keep up all your Inner Sanctuary, your Epiphany, all that good stuff. Really amazing talent. Wouldn't switch this out. The only one you can consider switching out is Fleet-Footed. If you're playing hardcore, or if you don't want to lose your pool or reflections like ever, you can go near death experience. I was using this when you know, I was a bit of a pussy. You can go ahead and use this. It's not needed by any means though. The 10% movement speed is better for you and the group. So I probably would go ahead and do that. But yeah, if you want to use this, you can. Paragon points. We'll quickly go over the Paragon points here. Really. It doesn't really matter. You just want to cap out your movement speed. So remember, you can only have a max of 25% with gear and Paragon. So balance out your movement speed, and then put everything else into vitality. Everything else into vitality. The only thing that really matters for you here is cooldown reduction. So you want to go cooldown reduction, because you know, more cooldown reduction means more damage amp, means faster runs, and then attack speed does help. It reduces the animation time on like dashing strike and cyclone strike, which is great. Defense, this does matter, as you know, that's how you're staying alive. I would go All Resist, followed by Armor, followed by Life percent, followed by Life Regen. Okay, cool. Utility, Resource Cost Reduction, then Life on Hit, and area damage is really insignificant. You just don't do any damage, and then Gold Fine, whatever. Sweet as. But yeah, that's a really kind of short, quick guide to the build. The main thing is just make sure you have all that experience gear equipped, and then stack as much CDR as possible. And then you just want to make sure you work. You've got to kind of have a lot of synergy with the Barbarian. It's kind of hard to explain how to do it. You and the Barbarian will naturally, the more you play together, you know, the better you're going to become at actually kind of like knowing when to skip certain mobs, knowing when to skip like little bits of trash, and it's really kind of hard, but once you kind of get good at it, you should be getting sub 3-minute runs. I've had like 1-minute 20 runs with this build and those really big outdoor maps. It's great. You can get ridiculous runs with this build, but it does take a bit of getting used to. Otherwise, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the guide. Peace out from me. I flippin' love you guys. I'll see you guys later.